Welcome back to Tanya in 5. The last few days we have been studying chapter 47. In chapter 46, the Alter Rebbe explained a level of attachment to God that is born out of understanding and recognizing the love God shows for us by granting us His mitzvahs and His Torah, and in this way granting us the opportunity to become one with Him and elevate to the level of divine service and oneness with the divine. In this chapter, the Alter Rebbe explains a central element of this relationship, namely the readily accessible nature of this attachment to God, and how this accessibility is expressed in a central part of the Jew's daily prayer. Everybody knows the famous line of our Jewish faith is the Shema. Hear, O Israel, God is our Lord, God is one. And anyone who's paying attention to the liturgy in the Siddur knows that we obsess a little bit over the Exodus from Egypt. We're constantly mentioning the Exodus from Egypt, and we're constantly thanking God for the Exodus from Egypt. In fact, these two things come together, the Shema and the praising and thanking God for the Exodus from Egypt. You see, the third paragraph of Shema, the one that begins with the Hebrew word Vayomer, is established by our sages to be read at that juncture because of the very last line in that paragraph in which we acknowledge God for taking us out of Egypt. So what exactly is the depth of the statement, God is our Lord, God is one? It seems rather obvious. There is one God and He's the God. And what's the connection to the Exodus from Egypt, and why do we obsess over the Exodus from Egypt? So this statement, the Shema, in which we declare God is our Lord, God is one, it's not simply a statement of fact. What we're really saying is that we are taking it upon ourselves that God is the only sovereign and master in my life. God is, not in the abstract, a God that exists, but our Lord. It's the only true sovereign that we respond to. Now, because I already have a godly soul in me, and because God granted me and chose me as a Jew and gave me His mitzvahs and His Torah and this godly soul, there's already a part of me that is already attached to God and dedicated and singular-minded in its acceptance of God as the only sovereign. Because that already exists for me in my soul, all I have to do really is be conscious of it. And the moments I'm conscious of the part of me that accepts God as the only sovereign, that in and of itself is an expression of this truth that God is the only reality. Because I've now taken upon myself to make God the only reality in my life. And that inherently is what it means to escape Egypt. Not in a literal sense, but in the spiritual sense. My body and all of its needs are a bunch of distractions. I need to fulfill this, I need to do that, I need to acquire this, and all these other pressures and masters over our lives saying what we do and don't and can and can't and should and shan't do. These are all foreign masters that enslave the soul who only has one master, God alone. And therefore when I declare Shema, and I am conscious of the fact of what Shema is saying, I accept God as the singular and only sovereign in my life, thus declaring God's the only reality for me. In that moment, my soul indeed is manifesting this truth that God's the only reality and therefore becoming one with God in that moment. And that is what it means to escape the personal Egypt. The takeaway from all of this is, my relationship with God is now, it's present, it's real, and it's already there. You already have in you the part of you that is one with God already. All you need to do is just be conscious of it. When you say the Shema, be conscious of this fact that there's a part of me that already accepts God as the only truth. And just be conscious of it. God is the only reality and the only sovereign to whom I have to respond. And in that moment, you will have escaped your personal exile and redeemed yourself from all the distractions that the body brings to our lives. Looking forward to seeing you when we conclude chapter 48.